And good morning, and thank you for being along today. I have Karen Onan back in studio with me, and she's been talking over the last month and a half or so about the East Central Regional Transportation Coordinating Council, which she is part of. And Karen, that deals with the counties of Pine, Isanti, Chisago, Kanabec, and Mille Lacs. Okay. And the biggest thing here is transportation, making sure people can get around, not just in our backyard, but around the state of Minnesota, is what it boils down to, correct?
Exactly. And the RTCCs, the Regional Transportation Coordinating Councils, are located all around the greater Minnesota, and we all are coordinating with one another. We each have our own region, and all of our regions have different needs and also have different systems, of course. And the point being is that we want to break down the silos, as they put it, so that they connect with one another. And we have to find out from people, what do they need and what they're using to get to where they need to get now, and what we can do to make it easier for them.
And fill the map in. I like putting it that way. Even though we're audio here, if you can visualize the map of Minnesota, basically, and making sure that these various groups, if possible in time, cross over each other so people can get all over the state of Minnesota.
Connect the dots.
Exactly. And Karen, introduce our guest this morning, please.
Well, Colette Hanson is here from Arrowhead Transit, and she is the Assistant Director of the Volunteer Driver Services that they have in the Arrowhead region. And they have a very robust volunteer driver system. And she has a couple people with her today, Scott Olson and Nikki Tucera. Both of them will be who you would be in touch with when you call to be involved with their volunteer driver system. Hello, Colette. Nice to have you on.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your background and what you do at Arrowhead Transit.
All right. Well, Karen had mentioned, my name is Colette Hanson, and I am the Assistant Director for Arrowhead Transit, and especially for our volunteer driving program. And a little about my background is I am currently going on December, it'll be year number 8 for me, and I actually came on board with our volunteer driving program as a support, and from there I went from a program support to a specialist 2, to a lead, to a supervisor, to a manager, and now recently to an assistant director. And I've actually grown with our program. When I first came on board with our program, we had 30 drivers only, and we were only doing maybe about 40 rides a day, if that. And currently, right now, post-COVID, we have 135 active drivers in our program, and we are slowly building our rides back up to pre-COVID.
So, Colette, how does it work when folks do need a ride? How do they go about getting a hold of you folks? What do they need to do?
How our program works is that if you have questions regarding if you qualify for our program or not, you can either call Scott Olson, and he can be reached at area code 218-735-6886. And he is our recruiter for our driver. If anybody else has any questions about our program, they can contact our new supervisor for our program. And her name is Nikki Tucera, and she can be reached at either 218-735-6854. She would be able to help you answer any questions that you have regarding our program. How our program works is that we have contracts either with the counties or with the 4 major insurance companies in Minnesota. So UCare, Health Partners, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, and Medica. And if individuals qualify for medical transportation, they can reach out to their insurance company, find out that they need help, and they contact their insurance company, and their insurance company would contact us to set up the appointment. And then we, from there, once we have that information, we would find them a volunteer driver to help them get from point A to point B for their medical or social service appointments.
Okay, so it does need to be under a heading of medical or social service. It's not necessarily something for getting to the grocery store, that kind of thing.
Correct, and that is our goal in the future, is to expand on our program using our volunteers and help the individuals with those gaps that need to maybe just go visit a friend in a nursing home, go to the salon to get their hair done, to go to the grocery store, just to run errands. And that is a goal of ours in the future for using our volunteer driver service.
To be a driver, this is all about getting more volunteer drivers. What's the criteria? What do they need to do?
If they want to become a volunteer driver, first just get in touch with us, ask any questions, and then Scott Olson, who is our recruiter at Arrowhead Transit, would sit down and make an appointment with them, and they would talk about the program, and then he would fill out some paperwork. And to be a volunteer driver, you have to be 21 years of age, and you have to have a clean driving record, because we do background checks, and we check your Minnesota driver's license to make sure that you don't have anything that can disqualify you. And then there's some like in-house paperwork, that is regarding, and then we have to make sure that they attend a meeting which is called Fraud, Waste, and Abuse, and HIPAA. And once all that is complete, we put them in our database, and then we start assigning them rides.
What about, do they drive their own vehicle, I'm assuming, correct?
Correct. They do drive their own vehicle. One of our criteria is we have a driver's manual, and you have to have a clean and safe, reliable vehicle. And you sign a piece of paper indicating that that is the case. And then what we do to follow up on such things is that we perform driver surveys with our clients. So we'll reach out to our clients that our drivers have transported, and we will ask them certain questions if they are meeting the standards, being on time, introducing themselves, how they're driving. And depending on what the results are, if we have a clean bill of record for the driver, we move on, and if there's any questions, we dive deeper into it to ensure that our drivers are holding up to our expectations.
Do the cars have any kind of identification on them so that when a person is getting into that car, they know that they're getting into a car that's been vetted?
Yes. What we require from our drivers is the night before they are scheduled to pick up the client, they are to call the client, introduce themselves, make sure that the appointment time is clear and that the address is clear, and they will explain what kind of vehicle that they are driving ahead of time so the client is aware of it. And when they pull up the next day, we do have a bright yellow sign that's called Volunteer Driver that is stuck in the windshield so the client is able to indicate which car they should be getting into.
Well, let's just say that they're taking a client to an appointment. Does the volunteer driver then wait, depending on how long, I suppose, this takes? How does that work? What does the volunteer driver do in between? Or is there somebody else that comes back and picks them up? Or how does that work?
We normally try to keep the client with the same driver so they know exactly which vehicle they are looking for. And depending on the appointment, what we will do is the driver will wait, and during that time, if they have to run any errands while they're in town, they can, and those are considered personal miles then. And then they will go back and get the client. Now, if it's like an appointment which is like dialysis, we give authorization to the driver to return back home and then go back after the 4 hours, what it normally takes for like dialysis. Okay. But they have to be pre-approved ahead of time to return home.
What if a person has a wheelchair and they need a specific vehicle? Do some of your drivers have vehicles that can accommodate that?
Unfortunately, our drivers are not able to transport individuals that are in wheelchairs. The clients that we transport with our volunteer drivers have to be able to get into and out of the vehicle on their own. But if the insurance companies reach out to us and indicate that they have an individual that is in a wheelchair, what we will try to do is reach out to our buses in those areas and try to put them on a bus to make sure that they are able to get to where they need to go, or else we would try to find assist the insurance companies or the client with another transportation provider that could assist them.
Colette, I know you mentioned at the beginning, specifically the counties that you cover, that Karen and I are talking about. Can you give us kind of an idea what that is?
Well, we service 10 counties all the way up from International Falls, and currently we just have taken on Chisago-Santee, which we're excited. But with our drivers, they can drive anywhere. Like, for instance, we had a contract with a county, and they had a client that was located down past the cities in the Rochester area, and they needed transportation. So we would find a driver like in our Pine area that would go and help transport that individual back and forth.
So it covers a huge area then.
Correct. Our drivers go anywhere. They have been known to go out of state over into the Dakotas, into Wisconsin to help assist individuals with medical appointments.
Does either the rider or the driver need to live within the Arrowhead region?
The drivers can be located anywhere in the state of Minnesota. We don't turn any driver away. We try to bring them on board because we never know if we're going to ever need their services. We really don't get too many drivers past the cities calling us, but for instance, we don't service Cass County, but we have drivers in that area to help assist with Itasca. So drivers can be in any area, and then for clients to use our services, they have to be in our service area because we have to report to the insurance company which areas we have service in.
I was thinking if I was going to be a volunteer driver, I'd be curious about the financial end as far as compensation for mileage, wear and tear on the vehicle. How does that work?
Since volunteers are not employees, they do not get paid. We just strictly reimburse them for miles, and we reimburse them at the federal rate for all miles. So from the moment they leave their house to the time they return back home assisting a client, they would be reimbursed those miles. And then depending on how far, like for instance, if a client up in St. Louis County, the Duluth area, needed to go to Rochester, and it would make more sense to have the driver spend the night, we will compensate them a rate of $50 to help with hotel, and then we give meal reimbursements for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So at this point, you mentioned at the beginning, Colette, how many drivers do you already have on board?
We currently have 135. Pre-COVID, we had 300, so we're slowly building up our drivers back after COVID.
Are the ages of the drivers, do they tend to be a little bit more in the senior range, or do you have younger people who are doing this too?
We have all ages that are driving, from early 20s and up to even late 70s, but majority of our drivers are retired and are just looking to help with their community, get out of the house, find something to do, and just maybe get a little spending cash while doing it.
I want to make sure, too, that everybody knows your website. And again, if you would repeat those phone numbers for us.
There is information. There's a section on our website which is called the Volunteer Driver, and you click on that, and then you can get that information there. And the website is www.arrowheadtransit.com. If anybody has any questions about how to become a driver, they can contact Scott Olson. He is our recruiter, and he can be reached at 218-735-6886. And if individuals want to know how they can sign up to be a driver or to see if they have any questions about being eligible for our program, they can also reach out to Nikki Jasura, and she can be reached at area code 218-735-6854.
Sounds good. And Karen, I did want to ask you before we kind of wrap up here, you have a website that you're going to have information for Arrowhead and all the other transits. And what is that one-stop shop for folks?
EastCentralTransit.com.
All the information from Arrowhead will be there, along with all the other folks that we've talked to from Timber Trails. We've talked to TriCap. We've talked to folks from the Jefferson Lines. So please take advantage of that website. And Karen, is there one more simple phone number that they could at least get a hold of you maybe, or leave a message if they have questions?
My number at the office is 320-679-4065, and my extension is 32. You can leave a message there, and I will get back to you. And like I said, all of the podcasts that we have done will all be on that website. We're building that website. It's becoming much broader. And I just wanted to thank Colette. I'm so excited that you're able to be on the phone with us. And our next interview will be with Jason Dietz of Groom, and that will be in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. Colette, thank you so much for your time and everything you guys are doing. And please stay in touch. If you have something new or an expansion or something going on, you can let Karen know, and maybe we can get back together down the road here.
Sounds great, and thank you for having me.
This update has been brought to you in part by our friends over at MnDOT.